don't buy this camera. Although I don't know why you would. They're from 2015 and only available in the used market now, and they didn't sell very well. Hi, my name is Ryan. Today I'm reviewing the Nilox Mini F Wi-Fi action camera. So this is your pretty bog standard GoPro knockoff type action camera. It's 1080p. This one doesn't have a display, but it does have a little LCD on the top for telling you how much battery's left, how much time you have left, stuff like that. Basic features. So 1080p recording. It has, I believe, 125 degree wide angle. It has Wi-Fi, and what that is for there's a companion app that lets you use your phone both as a monitor and can also use as a remote control for it. On the sides here, it takes standard micro SD card, has a microphone input, which is why I ended up buying this camera, USB for power, and HDMI out, which is a little bit unusual on action cameras. So the good, it's surprisingly well built. It has a lot of ports. The whole thing seems to be made of metal, and if I take the cover off here, I actually scratched some of the coating off, and yes, this is made of metal, so this is entirely made of metal, which is surprising. Like I said, it has HDMI out and a microphone input, which are pretty unusual in action cams, especially from this time period. And it actually has a tripod mount on the camera itself, which is kind of rare for action cameras. Most of them have it on the case, but not on the camera itself. So it's nice to see a tripod mount on the camera itself. Comes with a bunch of accessories. Your pretty much bog standard case, which you kind of expect from action cameras. It's fine. It does the job. Yeah, fully waterproof case. I would trust it as much as any other GoPro knockoff case. Has your standard assortment of accessories, manual. This is kind of weird. This is a remote control, but it's an infrared remote control, which I don't really get because the infrared port on this camera is in the front, and so you have to point it at the camera to use the infrared remote. And like normally you'd expect this camera to be like mounted to your body or something. Although I guess this would be good for like vlogging or something like that, because it does have that mic port. USB cable, a generic mount, and some things to attach it to, and then a few strips of VHB tape to mount this to things. So pretty much your standard affair that you get with any camera like this. I bought this almost entirely for the microphone port because I was very tired of recording a separate audio recorder. So normally I have my other action camera, and then my phone with a microphone attached to it was how I was recording my videos before I bought the camera I'm using now. And that annoyed me because I had a hard time syncing audio. Sometimes I forget to turn on the recorder, or sometimes I'd misname the audio recording and it wouldn't match the video recording, and it was just kind of a mess to try to sort that out. Now, in professional video applications, you do want external audio recording, but this is a YouTube channel. It's not professional. So I was hoping just to put my audio right onto the camera with a good quality microphone, and so that's why I bought this. So here's the bad. For one, that doesn't work. The microphone on here. So the first problem, which is a minor one, is that this has a 2.5 millimeter jack for the microphone. Now, standard microphone plug would be 3.5 millimeter. That's not such a huge deal because there's lots of adapters that exist. I tried several. I tried hooking an old cell phone microphone to it directly that did have a 2.5 mil jack. I could not get any microphone to give any sound to the recordings of this. I did hook this directly to the output of my computer. I did manage to get some sound from the output of my computer directly jacked into this. It wasn't very clear, probably because of the fact that it had way too much gain on it. But with a microphone, powered or unpowered, I tried several, I could not get any sound directly to this. And of course the onboard sound is garbage. I'll cut an example here. And this is an example of what the microphone sounds like on this camera. So right away, it didn't work for what I bought it for. But you know what? This was really cheap. I bought it. I got this used on B&H for like 30 bucks. So I was like, okay, maybe I still have a good action camera. No. Here's the other problems. Problem number 2. The app doesn't work worth a damn. I could get it to work a couple times, and it seemed to work okay, but it would freeze after a few minutes. And the last time I tried to record this review, I couldn't get the app to work at all, and since then I've given up on it. The way it's supposed to work is when you turn the camera on, there's a Wi-Fi button here. You click this. This becomes a Wi-Fi hotspot. You connect your phone to that Wi-Fi hotspot, and then you open the app, and it should connect to the camera. I can get the Wi-Fi hotspot part to work, but the app just never connects. It did a couple times, and then it stopped completely. So I'd say that's a useless feature too. The third problem, the battery life on this is terrible. Now, that could be because mine's a used one, and of course, like it being used, the only other English language review I could find for this camera was from Walmart, actually, and for our new one, and it also complained of the battery life. So I don't think that mine is the outlier. I think that these had battery problems, which also makes sense when you see like how tiny this like this is smaller than any lithium-ion battery I've ever seen. It says it's 1,000 milliamp hours. I think that's optimistic, but when recording, I did manage to get about 15 minutes out of the battery on this. I thought I was getting a few seconds, but I could actually get about 15 minutes. But the reason why I was getting only a few seconds is from the next problem that makes this not a usable camera. Sometimes it only records for a couple seconds and then stops. Quite often I would start recording, and then a few seconds later it would just stop. And so I thought the battery died, but then I turned it back on, had full battery. In fact, this was such a problem and so common that probably only 1 in 5 times I turned this on and started recording, it would go past that 5 seconds. So I actually got very little test footage from this because it was just too frustrating to use. Which brings us to our next problem, which really kills this as a useful camera at all. This camera gets banding and like rolling shutter artifacts. Always. So anyone who's tried to film a CRT monitor or under certain lighting conditions, especially fluorescent lighting, will notice there'll be like a rolling effect in the footage sometimes. And that's from the flicker of the light not matching the frame rate of the camera. This was doing this in direct sunlight. Now, the sun doesn't flicker, at least in any way that would be perceptible to us or any of our machines. So that shouldn't happen, which means there's a problem with the sensor in some way. Now, again, this could be mine because mine is used, but there was noticeable banding in some of the footage, which will clip in here, which just made the footage not usable. So between the audio problems, the app problems, the battery problems, and that rolling banding, this isn't even a useful camera for me as a B camera, which is really unfortunate. Thankfully, it was pretty cheap, but if you do find any of these used online, I would avoid them. They don't. I haven't seen them come up too often. It seemed like a thing that was mostly only sold in Italy and had very limited run in North America. But yeah, avoid this, especially since like it's from 2015. It's only 1080p. There are way better options in the market for cheap. Like you can get all sorts of knockoff GoPros for like $50 now, or even used GoPros for like 100. So I would avoid this. 0 to 10, terrible camera. Would not buy again.